Welcome to Cybersecurity Refined and Feral, where refinement meets chaos in the digital world. We invite you to join your co-hosts Candy Alexander and Cailin Sullivan in another open conversation on topics related to cybersecurity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cybersecurity Refined and Feral. I'm Cailin Sullivan.
And I'm Candy Alexander. So today we have a really fantastic rock star lineup of those folks in AI security. I am just so impressed and, just intimidated by the brilliance that are here for our discussion today on AI safety versus security. So who else would do a better job introducing each of you than yourselves? So again, I'm going to leave it over to you guys. And let's start with Sounil. Sounil, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, so I'm Sounil Yu, and my background is actually literally in my background. I used to be the chief scientist at Bank of America. I spent some time, actually, I'm missing a logo here. I used to be at Booz Allen for many years, building a lot of PowerPoint presentations. But anyway, I've spent some time in venture capital and startups, and I currently have my own AI security startup called Knostic.
Great, thank you. And Rock.
Hey everyone, I'm Rock Lambros. I'm the CEO of RockCyber, a small cybersecurity and AI security consulting company in Denver. I've been in the industry 25 years or so. My background is in everywhere from startups to Fortune 500, from eBay, doing some federal contracting, Agilent Technologies, CISO at an oil and gas company here in Denver. Before going off on my own and starting RockCyber in 2018. Also, co-author of that book right there, The CISO Evolution. That was the COVID Passion Project, and neck deep in a lot of the OWASP AI security initiatives. So happy to be here. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for joining us. And certainly last but not least, Ken.
Cool. Yeah. Nice to meet you all you guys. Yeah. I am Ken Huang, CEO of DistributeApps.ai. I work with actually Sounil and Rock in different open source projects, and certainly OWASP and Cloud Security Alliance, and also I'm neighbor actually of Sounil. Just I found a few months ago, so which is good.
Yeah, we actually had Sounil doing some intel gathering to see if you were walking down the street or not. So yeah, we learned that.
I usually walking a lot.
Perfect. It's good. It clears the mind, like we all should every once in a while. So again, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us for this conversation. Words. Maybe I'm too, precise, but words mean a lot. And when it comes down to the definitions, and it seems like in our profession that I'll be direct. It seems like marketing people get involved and they really muck up. What's what does it really mean? So, I have been like everybody else going through this AI journey, trying to understand all the buzzwords like AI security, AI safety, trustworthy AI, responsible AI. And it has come to me that we're really getting confused, or maybe it's just me getting confused as to what really does AI security mean and what does AI safety mean, and are they interchangeable? Because let's face it, I think a lot of people do use them interchangeably. I personally don't think that they are by definition, but let's just kick off and throw it out to whoever wants to take that first. What are your opinions of that?
Well, so if you consider the English language, we have two words for that, right? Security and safety. But if you go to, let's say, German, the word for security and safety are the same. I don't know
Also
German,
in
but I think it's like
Chinese, also
Sicherheit or
same.
something.
Yeah.
Yes. So different languages actually combine those two words, which makes it confusing for that reason. And I think in the same way, like we were talking about AI security and safety, but let's use the word cyber security for a moment. Okay. Cyber security, we use the same word for cyber safety and cyber. What we mean by cyber security sometimes is actually cyber safety. Okay. So how do you tell the difference? Well, one way that I do tell the difference is by adding a different word in front of those two words. So let's consider the word food. What's food safety versus food security? Okay. Well, food safety is something that each one of us can take personal responsibility for. It deals with hygiene. Okay. It deals with compliance. You have well-established practices. And if there's a failure in one of these practices, everyone knows. You want to actually share it broadly and say, hey, everyone, this is a food safety issue. Everyone should know about this. We don't hold back on that. Food security, though, is not necessarily something that we can take personal responsibility for. We, in fact, oftentimes look at it as a governmental function. Okay, and we say, hey, the government is really someone who's going to take care of this. And it deals with much bigger issues like starvation and, supply chain is another one of those aspects of things. But anyway, the point is that if we add another word in front of safety and security, it does help delineate the different practices. And so this is why I was saying earlier, I think a lot of the things that we do in cyber security are really actually safety practices and less security practices.
So I personally would, of course, disagree. That's what I love about having conversations with you, Sounil. We like see the same, but not completely. But I'm the co-host here. So Rock or Kim, what are your thoughts in regards to safety versus security?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to fall back to kind of like I love the analogy, Sunil. I tend to fall back to kind of the UNESCO definitions, and safety, they kind of bifurcated it. Safety is more around preventing harms when the system is the system's operating as expected, right? So that could be like a model misalignment or unintended consequences, bias, discrimination, that type of stuff, kind of focusing on the outcomes of the system. Whereas security, is more focused on protecting the system from adversarial attacks, adversaries, right? So I'm getting a little bit more techie than Sunil did. And oh, by the way, in Greek, safety and security are also the same word.
So I'm the odd man out here with my little delineation problem. But Ken, what are your thoughts in regards to this whole?
So Sunil and Locke both said like in some languages security and safety same in Chinese, Greek, and German. So it's really delineate the issue we have here. I would like to take a step from a more like traditional cybersecurity perspective. So in terms of cybersecurity, is really the CIA, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability aspect, right? I wrote a actually blog post to the Cloud Security Alliance, and trying to say that we kind of hype the AI safety issues in the media, and we underhype the security because the majority of companies, they want to implement agentic AI or generative AI systems. They really focus on the CIA perspective, not like a CBRN or chemical, biological, nuclear, like radioactive. Those like also some kind of humanity termination aspect of it, right? But that was like grab the headlines. All this like in terms of termination factor, like right. So from this angle, I think for frontier model, it's okay. It's also good. It's advisable that they still focus on the AI safety issues. For the downstream application, I think the majority of enterprise right? Really should focus on the security, on the CIA perspective. And that is actually the Cloud Security Alliance, the OWASP did a very good job on it, right? And we have do something like about the organization responsibility. We publish white papers, mostly focus on the AI safety issues, but in terms of security and how can we kind of adhere to the NIST risk management framework, which actually talk about the AI safety a little bit, right? In terms of that, we touch a little bit, but the work product that we deliver in terms of AI control matrix or the OWASP, like top 10, the agentic AI security work we do, this all focus on the security so far. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because Ken, when I gave this presentation at the ISSA 40th anniversary conference, I began the presentation using an analogy from the New York Times, and this went back to like 2014. And the analogy was this: imagine how a medical robot originally programmed to get rid of cancer. Okay, and that it 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 concluded that the best way to obliterate cancer was to exterminate humans who were genetically prone to the disease. So, in my interpretation, that's intent, right? And so, therefore, that's a safety issue because that same robot, of course, if you look at it from the security perspective, right? We security professionals, we know how to protect that robot. We know to make sure that, like autonomous automobiles, nobody's going to break in and hack it, haha, and that it's going to do its intended purpose of eliminating cancer. But we forgot to say, don't kill the humans. So
yeah.
that's to me the difference between safety and security.
Yeah, so I really want to follow up on this. Like the
Yeah.
frontier model really need to focus on the safety. That's good, and also downstream application. It has the human, like a physical factor, right? The IoT device or the
Yes.
robot. That's also has the safety, right? Physical or safety issue. So not all the downstream application just can focus on the security aspect, also need to focus on the safety. So actually in Chinese, if you really want to say it, it also like what Sunni said, you have to quantify it, like have a prefix, like you say the cyber security, or you have human safety, right? So in
Yes.
Chinese, it's the safety security same, but the qualified words is different, right? Human and cyber, right? But the end words is same in
Mhm.
Chinese.
Yeah, it all
Uh,
depends on the
and
context, I'm sure, too,
Right.
that you're using
mhm.
the word will change the meaning in the context.
Right.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's Ken mentioned that along the way. I actually think we do ourselves a disservice in the security community by couching it as a security issue when it can be re-characterized as a safety
Yes.
issue. Safety does grab our attention. It is something that is top of mind because it deals oftentimes with human life, right? And it's kind of hard to connect the cyber stuff to human life, death, that kind of stuff. Ransomware in hospitals, you can do that. But the characterization of a safety issue gets board level. It has always gotten board level attention. Okay, and it's only the cybersecurity side of it that's starting to get board level attention. But if we can commandeer that word appropriately,
Mhm.
I think it actually services us well by framing it in a safety issue that people care a lot more. And this is the way I also characterize it as well. So consider you're going to buy a car, okay? Would you get into a car that is unsafe but secure, or would you get into a car that is safe but unsecure? Okay, if you had a choice between the two, which one would you choose? And there's no question,
Right.
right? We will sacrifice security for
Right.
safety. And that's unfortunately that is what happens regularly inside of most enterprises. But if what we're doing is actually a safety issue, then let's call it for what it is and get the attention that it deserves.
But can you
Yeah,
really?
and that's why I love being the CISO at an oil and gas company, right? Because I had that tangible mission, direct connection to safety, on the operational technology side. And, I'll kind of like double down on what you just said is like, but I think organizations are balancing cost over security and safety, right? And right now, cost is the driving factor in a lot of AI implementations because, token spend is going out of control. Now, having said that, you put some security and safety guardrails in, you could bring that, you can start reining that in. So like you said, like grasp that conversation and spin it to terms that organizations like can grab onto.
So
Yeah.
one thing that, if I could just offer this though, one thing that, because when Sounil and Rock, when you were saying this, it makes me think back to the privacy and security conversation, right? Like, can you have safety without security? Or can you have security without safety? I would say you can have the latter. You can, be a secure system, or you can have a secure system without safety. You can have a secure system without privacy, but you can't have privacy or safety without security. No?
So I would kind of refer one kind of case, right? UK changes AI Safety Institute to the AI Security Institute. Another reference point is in the Cloud Security Alliance, we have AI Safety Initiative. I think we keep it, right? So I think it's really to the Sunil point, is really to have the kind of message across that safety is really important. It's right. So to Candy, to your question is, I think your question is, can you have the safety without security?
Right.
I would say it's really hard.
Right.
Right? You can hack into your system. Take Sunil's example, right? Security, right? If I can change something and security, confidentiality, right, and integrity, I can change something and hack into your system, which is security vulnerabilities, and then like auto driving or drive you, or maybe instead of you hit a brake, the brake will never work, right? So it will impact the safety. So I would say the precondition in most cases for safety is security. You have security first, and then you have safety. Maybe not vice versa, like
No.
right? So if you have full safety, does not guarantee you have security. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, that could be a good discussion point.
you could have the safest system on the planet, but without good security, somebody gets in and changes it.
Yeah.
It
So-
makes it unsafe. Right?
Yeah. So that's just the
Sunil's
point.
like trying to jump in.
Oops, sorry.
Well, yeah. So I do actually see them as independently separate things. With the reason why you're bringing up this issue is because you have a situation where you have an active attacker who's able to undermine the properties of a safe system. But if you have if you have a system that is completely separated from the outside world, then you could say, you know what I really, really care about is this system to be safe. And I don't really need to worry so much about security. My security concerns are diminished depending upon the accessibility of that system to the outside world or to malicious actors. Okay. It's the accessibility that adds the security equation in, but really the safety is the foremost consideration, especially in certain operational environments. But let me tie that back to privacy for a moment. Candy, you made an assertion that you can't have privacy without security. But I would argue that if you consider the principles of privacy by design versus security by design, they're actually I would make a case that they're opposites of one another. If you do privacy by design, you're making the content that you're making the attributes of whatever interaction be something that you don't really have to secure at all, because I'm already adhering to the principle of privacy by design. So I would argue that the more that I adhere to the principles of privacy by
Right.
design, I lessen my burden for security such that I don't even need to secure it.
So this cracks me up. And the reason why I'm laughing, because this goes back to the presentation you gave at the ISSA
right.
conference, right? About getting yourself worked out of scope for PCI compliance. So rather than
That's right.
comply with PCI, you just get rid of the
Which
darn
is you should always
credit
do.
cards, right? Credit card numbers,
That's
and
right.
just deal with everything else. But sometimes you can't do that. And I guess the point that I was
Agreed.
trying to make is that for those cases that you have to deal with privacy or safety, you have to have security. So go ahead, Rock. Go ahead.
What about, I'm going to pick at that a little bit, but what about the I and the A in the CIA triad, right? So the privacy by design scenario definitely covers the C. But what about the other two things that we got to, according to the CISSP, have to worry about, the integrity and availability?
Well, sorry, in terms of how does the I and the A?
Yeah, so when you
intersect with
say,
privacy?
like, you know, if you focus on privacy by design, you could almost get it to the point where you don't have to secure the system because the two privacy by design and security by design principles kind of conflict. So if you get rid of that, right, you get rid of the C in the security
Yeah.
triad. What about the I and the A?
Well, privacy generally aligns pretty strongly with the C part of the triad. It's not as tightly connected to the I and the A
Right.
part, but privacy is really the primary concern of the CIA triad is going to be the C part.
That's my point, right? And so if somebody takes the viewpoint of, if I do privacy by design, I'm good, they're ignoring the I and the A,
You can't.
right?
That's why it's called the
yeah,
triad.
Well, and by the way, going back to the triad for a moment, for those who have been in this industry for a long time, we also recognize that they tried to insert safety into the triad, if you remember. It was the original CISA, if you think about it. But anyway, but safety was incorporated, proposed as a member of the CIA triad, or whatever you call it, quad, CIA quad at that point, I guess. CISA quad at that point. But for whatever reasons, it was summarily rejected. And I think actually, again, for good reasons, because it is a very distinctly separate thing.
Let's go there, because that's the next point I want to make, is that, right, as cybersecurity professionals, we as humans, we gravitate to what we know and what we're comfortable and what we're good at, and that's security, right? So through this conversation, we've talked about the differences between safety and security. Safety is really important, but when you look at like all of the news stories, and especially those items that came out of, I don't know if you guys, and I'm sure you did, took a look at the MIT study that was released back in September. There were a lot of reports of companies falling down on security. And even though we're all gravitating towards security, I would say that when I look at everything going on, you look at the OWASP top 10 for LLMs, you look at like everything that is out there readily available, it's all focusing on security. And there's not a whole lot on the other end, like what the ethical purposes and practices of AI, or I'll say the responsible aspects. So are we hurting ourselves by focusing first on security, and or are we going to eventually move towards the other thing, or the other thing being safety? Is it too darn hard, and that's why we're just letting the privacy people deal with it?
Right. So what I would say is that OWASP and Cloud Security Alliance, SENSE, all those I participate, we have the DNA like in the security. aspect, right? More working on the security. So if we look at the working group, I co-chair some of the working groups. The majority of people really is from cybersecurity perspective. We don't have people like from ethical or more general responsible AI. That may do us some disservice. I agree that actually we do have plans that we in Cloud Security Alliance, we plan to focus on security first, but the AI safety initiative is that was envisioned actually to focus on the other aspect as well. Sooner or later, I think it's at least from cloud security perspective, right? I think the ethics and all other aspect should be put into the agenda soon. In terms of OWASP, I think it's a purely web application security
Yeah.
project. I think there's still a lot of work need to be done, lots of exciting things on the security side. So from what I know about both organizations, I think the OWASP would still focus on the security aspect. But I think, Candy, you really mentioned a really good kind of tendency that eventually you do need to focus on every aspect of responsible AI. Responsible AI is a bigger topic. It's including security ethics and also other aspect as well. Um, we do have, like I mentioned, the organization responsibility document from the different angle, but I think we only touch some essential part.
Yeah.
We need to working on right to I don't think like if there's other leadership or some industry open source leadership on this, there may be. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and that's the point too. I know, and I know I probably bash marketeers a lot, but come on, they deserve it. So, like when you look at the I don't want to say hype, but when you look at the need is coming. It's here, right? We've heard horrible stories and Lord knows, like Meta and the trouble and hot water they've been into recently with alleged, and I'm starting to believe it, suicides because of chatbots. And I mean, it's getting to it's coming to the head where we really, in my humble opinion, believe we need to start focusing on this other side. Rock, I know you and I are part of the, Global Council for Responsible AI, organization, but in my opinion, it's not fast enough. I know that, another thing is that the EU AI Act, they were really clear on defining some of the things we're saying are really hard and we'll get to later. So, I mean, where do we go from here? Rock, again, I called you out. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I think we do have resources if you know where to look, right? So, like OWASP, we do have a governance work stream. It frankly is a little quiet because the security stuff, it makes a bigger splash, more downloads. I'll be very frank, right? Like people tend to gravitate towards the security side.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at AI governance as a whole, I think where it differs from our traditional cyber governance, if you will. Although I never advocate running multiple programs, let's make that clear, is that if you look at the AI governance principles, it is to take into account, the 11 tenets of responsible AI and that kind of stuff, along with the security controls and laying out a control framework of how to roll out AI initiatives within your organizations safely, right, and securely. So, I mean, NIST, right? So Ken mentioned the UK AI Security Institute earlier. NIST has an AI Security Institute. They're starting to put out more and more guidance. There's a NIST initiative going on right now to align the 853 controls with I think it's the NIST AI SI as well, right? Around for AI, right? So there's the GCRA that you just mentioned, but yes, we're moving very slow, and that's another podcast. So I think you just need to know where to look. UNESCO has a lot of good resources. The Hudera framework, right? So Hudaria
Yes,
framework.
yes, yes.
So right, but they don't get the press, right?
Well, you know what's
OECD as well. They don't get the press.
yes, and you know what's scaring me is that we're so focused, and maybe this is the next topic for us to tackle, right? What's scaring me is that as a good cybersecurity person, I'm owning everything, whether it's mine or not. I'm going to own it, right? Let's face it, we're fixers. So, like, we're saying we got to get in front of this safety train, if you will, right? But meanwhile, if you look at any of this topic on LinkedIn or trade rags or whatever, who's in front of that train? Who's engineering that train? But here I say, this is another person or profession I affectionately, respectfully like to pick on, and that's legal counsel. It's the lawyers, right? They're all on top of this, safety train, if you will, especially with the meta, case studies and everything else, and rightly so. But probably different drivers for leading that train. But who does need to take charge on this? Do you
Well, I
think?
mean, safety is the thing that's going to get you sued, for sure.
Right.
And I mean, I'm seeing budgets not come like AI security budgets not come out of security, right?
Mhm.
I'm like, with a lot of clients I work with, it's coming out of either legal or even product, right, or the chief data officer's
Yes.
office,
Yes.
that type of thing. So it's not even security leading. Oftentimes, AI security within organizations, which I think is actually kind of cool because for so long, for so many decades, we've been trying to push ourselves right onto hey product, hey developers, hey C-suite, hey board, you need us, right? Please let us know when you're evaluating a new release, a new product, whatever. Now we're seeing a little bit more pull. So I am seeing other parts of the organization take more of a charge.
Which is good.
I feel like design ethicists would fall into engineering, which I think would be leading some of this.
I have
Most
never.
organizations don't have design
I was
ethicists.
just going to say,
Yeah.
I have never met a design team with a design ethicist. I mean,
Yeah. So do we think that AI is going to launch like a whole new career path? Is that going to be in engineering? Is it going to be in infosec, or is it going to be in privacy law,
So
legal?
when we do the organization responsibility working group white paper, we actually have this exact question: who's responsible for what? The consensus is there is no consensus, right? It depends on the organization. So the
Right.
big organization like Microsoft has a huge responsible AI team,
Yep.
and they collaborate with other team as well, with the Microsoft research and the red teaming and engineering team, like all this, right? But if a small company like a startup, who's responsible? I think Biden administration originally think that you need a chief AI officer. The CAIO will coordinate with CISO, the CTO, all this, right, to make sure this is implemented responsibly. I do believe that should be continued, especially in federal government, to make this as an example. And some of major corporation and even some startup has CAIO pop up. I think it's a good thing, right? So who is responsible? I think if we can identify who has ownership, like that is a CAIO has ownership, and he has a business and also AI perspective, and also coordinate with the CISO, CTO
Yeah.
on right to make this happen.
Yeah.
I want to get to an earlier conversation around words and words mattering, and specifically around the word responsible. And I think we see this confusion around what exactly do we mean by responsible when it came to the debate about suicide and ChatGPT. And what I mean by debate here is when is it responsible to disclose methods around suicide? I mean, maybe if you're in Switzerland, it's perfectly fine,
Right.
okay? But maybe if you're 13 years old or younger, it's not. So the definition of what's responsible is not a clear and fast definition. And I think this is part of the core challenge that we have in trying to create these guardrails when we in society, we in the global society don't really have a solid definition of what constitutes responsible. Because
I'm going to stop you there because, and in my perspective, the EU AI Act had 8 ethical principal values or 8 prohibited practices. And when you look at them, they're pretty high level enough and generic enough that they're good, but yet definitive enough that they're good. So we have an idea.
Well, but is there consensus around? There isn't going to be, regardless of of what's written down. At the end of the day, there's not going to be universal consensus around when it gets to the specifics. Because even with the ChatGPT suicide conversation, there were complaints from adults saying you're treating us like children because you're restricting these topics from us, and it's their definition, whatever the topic may be, right? It's a definition of responsible that I don't agree with. Therefore, what's the right answer for that? And I think again, this is a really tough question that we're all going to have to wrestle with. And maybe the best answer is one that nobody likes because that's probably the right answer.
But is it kind of like, again, looking at the 8 prohibited practices from the EU Act, right? They're pretty good. However, there are nuances according to regional cultural differences. To your point, right?
Right.
What's acceptable in Switzerland or Middle East or Asia versus here in the United States, even what's acceptable on the East Coast versus West Coast, because there's a big, divergence there too, So, I think that's, and this is where I said this is the hard stuff to figure out. But let's face it, we all know collectively a lot of really smart people, and you can't say that they can't come to a means for us to have a baseline like we have in security, baseline, and then make it applicable according to the environment.
Well, let's talk about the analogy back to security. Should we implement MFA everywhere?
Depends.
Exactly. Right. And the answer is, in some respects, we do it because we make a risk management decision to not do. And so it's a similar sort of paradigm that we have to, or a similar sort of mindset that we have when it comes to AI as well. There are going to be some instances where we let it operate in irresponsible, what some people may consider irresponsible, unsafe, whatever it may be, because there's a business we've chosen to take the risks associated with that.
I feel like that's also where consent would come in too, though. The user, transfer of risk. Like, let's just put it on the user that they're consenting to this. It's in the terms of service. Then nobody reads, right?
Altman announced an adult mode of ChatGPT coming soon, right?
Yeah.
And Grok is the adult mode ChatGPT. But like you said, right? Like, there's not going to be like one size fits all.
Right. No.
Nor should there be.
Yeah, and I'm already seeing this today with we play a lot with AI coding assistants, and there's what's called YOLO mode or dangerously skip permissions. You specify that as a parameter. But you're intentionally choosing to do so because you don't want to have to say yes to everything, every prompt. Is it okay for me to do this? You're answering that prompt like repeatedly several times every other second. It's just like annoying. Please just do it. But when it drops your database or when it deletes your whole hard drive, well, yeah, that's the risk that you chose to take, right? And we do it because we want to save time, we want to save money. We'll make that risk management decision along the way, and hopefully we can create proper safeguards, not security guards, safeguards, okay, to avoid hazards, accidental hazards, not intentional ones, but accidental hazards that emerge when you let it have ELO mode.
Yeah. Ken?
Yeah, so in terms of risk management framework, I think NIST AI IMF is a good one to start. It's descriptive but not prescriptive. I
Yes.
just want to mention that Locke and I and with a team of research, we actually come up with an approach and also implement some of the tool for that. I think the bare minimum in terms of risk management for AI safety or security is first you need to do the map, right? Or governance, like gov
Yes.
is important. You need to decide. So we do have this CSA paper, like have the
Yep.
governance, and then you have the map using Maestro framework. That's officially now Cloud Security Alliance Maestro framework, going to 7 layer to see what safety or security risk you may have. And then you have to measure it in terms of measure, like if you cannot measure the risk, especially with AI or agentic AI, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. The
Right.
traditional CVSS is focused on the vulnerability. They are not focused on risk. So that is really hard to adopt.
Yes.
We based on the CVSS, but we certainly, like in AI VSS project, we say that's not enough. We need to add the risk factor, right? So that's really is to measure it, and then you can manage it using AICM or red
Yep.
teaming or this framework. If you look at this MCP, right? I think Locker, you may want to add more into it because that was also your idea.
Oh, into a gate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to, and I'm glad that we're
Thank you.
heading in this direction because that's exactly what I have written down. I wanted to go here because when you're looking at risk and whether or not something is acceptable from a safety perspective versus a security perspective, right? It is all about governance. And again, a little bit of tough love for a lot of organizations out there. They don't do governance well. And the C suite is not involved in those conversations, perhaps all the time, I would, venture to argue. So, first question put out here to our guest, how do we get the C suite to pay attention to the question of where do you draw the line for safety? We'll use the use case of the ChatGPT meta model, right? That Rock, you very eloquently explained that it is now more than just the CISO and the CIO having these conversations. So that's good. But how do we get the rest of the C suite to see it? How do you quantify the potential risks from a safety perspective, following Ken's comment about governance? And then again, that's only with the assumption that everybody's doing governance really well and appropriately with the risk decisions happening at the right portion of the organization.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we've had from a cybersecurity governance and well, particularly risk management standpoint, has been articulating the soft stuff or quantifying the soft stuff, I should say, like reputational damage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the ESG aspect, the risk of the ESG aspects of the program, right? So when we talk about AI safety and we're talking about the outcomes of the model, right, whether it be bias or people misuse it and leads to, God forbid, suicide or other types of harms, right?
Yeah.
Discrimination harms, they kind of fall back into that same bucket of reputational risk.
Yeah.
What corporate social responsibility do we have to care and do something about it? And, so I don't think it's necessarily different from that challenge that we've had for, decades.
So are we falling down there because we as CISOs take on trying to come up with the impact of reputational risk? Why aren't we going and talking to the marketing, the VP of marketing, to say if we were, looked at negatively, what kind of impact? So why wouldn't we, from the AI safety perspective and or like privacy, because I see these really similar, wouldn't we go into our legal counsel privacy, our deep, CPO, Chief Privacy Officer, or maybe Chief Safety Officer, and say, hey, what is the impact? And then we should not own that, right? When we come up with the risk impacts, shouldn't we be calling on other C-suite people to come in and fill in the blanks?
Well, okay, so let me offer, we started this word pairing exercise earlier. Let me go back to that just a real quick moment to answer that question. So airline or airspace, safety versus security. If I'm United and I have an aircraft safety issue, that's United's fault, okay? If I'm flying in a plane and I get hit by a Russian missile, that's an airspace security issue, okay? United getting hit by a Russian missile is a U.S. government issue. It's the U.S. government's fault for not having safe airspace, okay? And so this perspective of who takes the blame for that, again, I wouldn't blame United. And this is my opinion, so take it for what you will. I think Tim Brown got hit by a Russian missile. Okay, he got hit by a Russian missile, and poor guy, he gets sued by the SEC. And I was like, why is the government suing us when it's really the government's fault for not keeping the airspace clean, right? Okay, so that's because the government was shut down. Right? I know. So in terms of responsibility, I think that's something to consider. That we. Using the right word also frames who takes responsibility for what. It also frames, though, the nature of the challenge that we can deal with. Because when it's a safety issue, the term safety engineering versus security engineering has very distinct meanings as well. Safety engineering is a really well-described practice where you can anticipate the potential failure modes and say, there's a very clear probabilistic model that we have to say this is how things can fail, and let's the engineer to avoid to have those safeguards against those failure modes. Okay, security though is much harder. Yes, we can do quantified cyber risk and FAIR and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's still throwing darts at a dartboard, hoping that one of them hits something. Right? It's the actuarial science for it is not that great yet, and I'm not sure if it'll ever be, because at the point that we have like actuarial level predictions around cyber, intentional actors threatening us, it's the same day that I'm going to bet in the stock market, because that means I can predict everyone else's behaviors, right? But we can't do that. There's no way we can do that today in the stock market. So how can we do that? Anyway, you get the idea. But we can very well predict accidental, natural sort of behaviors and activities. And I think that's something that if we can figure out how AI systems actually truly work, which is one of the challenges that we have, then we can actually predict how often certain things will result in certain failure modes. And that is an active area of research. But I think when we talk about safety engineering, that's the type of engineering practice that we can put towards AI safety. AI security, a whole different ball of wax, and predicting that is going to be a much bigger challenge.
Interesting. And you left us all speechless. That is a feat. Now that is something, Sounil.
Yeah, so I believe what Sounil said is correct in terms of AI safety engineering from like a traditional airspace and as a critical infrastructure perspective, traditionally those needed to be 100% safe, right? So there is a lot of engineering into the place. It could be more predictable. It has to be more deterministic. Now with the agentic AI, that's fundamentally non-deterministic. To have this as AI safety engineering, it's really hard.
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
but that's the work I think need to be done, and also need to be adding to kind of security, right? So I think the work like a AI VSS project that we are doing with OWASP, and also the AI control matrix we are doing with the Cloud Security Alliance, and Candy, you involved quite a lot of this as well, is trying to do that. It's not perfect, and I think it's moving to the right this direction. I also try to mention, Sonia has a comment that traditionally security always have CIA. Someone trying to put safety into it, the security community is rejecting it. The reason why was it was, I think, when Internet of Things, IoT, was become something important. You will say, okay, if our IT system has all this IoT there, then it has to be safe, right? So maybe we should add safety on top of it. Um, IoT did not really take off big way. AI take off big way, but now the AI, especially with the humanoid robot, personally, I believe it maybe still 5 or 10 years away to be more generic, like a general purpose. For use, it's now can dance, right? Which is good. Like a unitary, it can dance, it can climb the mountain, go to the stairs. But to make it a general purpose, then you need to talking about the safety.
Yeah.
That will be still will be hard. There's no solution yet, right? That's why I think eventually you do need a kind of layer of a double layer. Like you have a agentic layer, and then you have kind of expert system control layer, which has kind of
Mm,
um, kill switch, right? If
interesting.
it want to do something like example, like recently people demo that the humanoid robot don't know the mirror, so it will bumping into the mirror, break it, and continue walk, right? So if you have the kill switch, say, okay, this is a mirror, or somehow identify it first, right, and then have a kill switch, right? Then you may have the guardrail there. But I think we are talking a lot in terms of the future. But
Yes.
so I still holding my stance. For now, our focus is really for majority of downstream applications. We should really focus on the security, especially we should fix the identity piece. I think this Sunil company is doing it. I really
Yes. Yeah.
applaud for that, and many other people also doing it. Eventually, we should be able to figure this out. Who owns the agent identity? What the agent ID is doing during the life cycle? How the access management works, right? We still need to figure this out. We do have a white paper, but that's just a paper, right? And we need to implement this. Yeah.
Ken just made me think of the movie Megan.
Megan, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It has the number two, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a Megan
Yeah,
2 as well.
yeah. I only
So,
watched number one, but yeah.
so thank you, Ken, and that's a good lead in for where I'd like to bring us to begin to wrap up this conversation. And by the way, this has been unbelievable, a lot of fun. And I hope we can get together again and have this conversation in another like 9 months and see where we're at. But so you provide us your foresight of where you think we need to go, Ken. So Rock, let me turn to you now. So in this whole, world of AI, the the very generic AI definition. Where do you feel we need to move or look at next? What is a high priority? Safety, security, governance. Where are you feeling nervous?
I'm feeling nervous around that we are forgetting the fundamentals, right? As we start to, like go dive headfirst into the pool of agentic AI, right? Like things like we do it differently. Things like access control still matter. Authentication still matter. Segmentation still matters, right? Having a data layer and a control layer still matters. And I fear that we're like losing sight of those fundamentals. Updating our incident response
Mhm. Yes.
for AI, right? I fear that we're like, full speed ahead and want to grasp onto how do I do input and output validation for prompt engineering, which is really just SQL injection, or, misalignment, or how do we protect against model agent misbehavior, right? Or model poisoning. It's like, well, let's not lose sight of what got us here.
Yeah, fair enough. And Sunil, the question was, in looking towards the immediate future, where do you feel we're missing and not focusing enough, or what is making you nervous that we should take a look at?
So as we look at these AI systems, they're starting to make more autonomous decisions, and we don't necessarily have a proper set of guardrails around the autonomous decision making that we're letting these systems do on our behalf. And so we, again, need more safeguards because there are so many. The question of what could possibly go wrong, well, we actually know the answers to some of these things. And as we deploy more of these AI systems out there and they start making autonomous decisions, the whole practice of threat modeling, which is a sort of like a security practice as well, we're going to have to really refine and hone that because the question of what could possibly go wrong, there's many answers to that we want to absolutely explore and ensure we have safeguards against.
That's fair enough. And Ken, I'm going to come back to you because you may not have actually hit on what is making you nervous right now that you feel we should be paying attention to. Did you cover your points, or is there something that you would like to mention?
Yeah, I don't think we still have a really good framework to manage the risk from agentic AI yet. You guys maybe know I wrote a book on the securing AI agent. We'll put a lot of thoughts into it. But I think some of the basic construct and the concept should stay when agent AI develop. We have not have formal definition of agent AI yet, but the whole economy is moving to agentic AI, and my conviction is the agentic AI economy will be much bigger than the cloud, the mobile, and the whole internet economy. And we're not ready yet, right? I think the reason why I contributed to the open source community, write the books, is really trying to say this is something we need to be careful with, and just raising the awareness, and also building some system, live coding it, could potentially help. I think Sunil, Rock, Candy, Cailin, you guys also doing your parts as well to contribute.
Yeah, well, thank you. I can't.
I just wanted to add one thing that I'm worried about. Having grown up, with the internet itself, the unknowns is what I'm worried about. Like social media, for example, when it was first developed, nobody knew the impact that it was going to have on society, teenage girls, teenage boys. The societal impacts is what I'm worried about. I don't know how this
second order effects.
Yeah, this whole conversation just
another
highlights.
bigger conversation could happen is really job displacement. Like
Yes.
it's already happening, right? It's maybe it's in the context or pretext of the AI, but it's like the Best Buy or the UPS, Amazon, all those happens, right? And what happened? It could have society impact,
Yeah.
right? Maybe UBI is a fix, the universal basic income is a fix, but I don't think that's is the actual fix.
Right.
You
I have a hot
the
take on that, and that's
right,
that a lot of these companies are using AI as a leverage to save money.
Of
yes,
That's
course.
just
definitely. But I think still you need to have people gainfully
Yeah.
employed, right? Or somehow they know that they contribute to society. It's very important, right?
yeah.
Otherwise, the people will have this like depression or this. So this is something I think. Yeah, it's maybe the another wall. It's in addition to just security or safety.
Well, I'm going to cut us off there because I think we could probably talk all night long on this. And I think, again, I would love to have you gentlemen back. This has been a fascinating start, I hope, to getting more people to talk about these things that we've talked about. What exactly is safety? What is security? Where do they intersect? Who's responsible for it? Where do we go from here? So again, I am just thrilled that my three rock stars, no pun intended, rock, of AI and AI security in the AI world have been able to join Cailin and I into this podcast. So again, my most sincere and heartfelt gratitude for your time. Cailin, if you could please close us out.
Absolutely. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. I echo Candy's idea of having you guys come back in 6, 9, 12 months and see where we've landed, if any of our concernicusses have been addressed or not. To our audience, thank you for listening. We hope that you found this insightful. We would really love it if you guys could like, share. If you have any comments, questions, just reach out to us. We don't bite. And give us a thumbs up. Until then,
we hope that you stay secure, stay refined,
but don't be afraid to get a little bit feral.